If you want to listen to this episode or any of our episodes ad-free, you can do that now. Head on over to Patreon. Click on the ad-free level. You get all of our bonus shows that you've been hearing so much about. Plus, every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you can listen to this episode or any of our other episodes at the same time, ad-free, over on Patreon. We are in the heart of this reunion for RHOSLC. What a great season. You know, Kathryn Edwards, had our big, long talk, about Beverly Hills and everything Housewives, and she was catching up on Salt Lake and saw this scene between Mary and Robert Jr., and it really touched her. She has a lot of these issues in her own family, and she texted me and said, I think we should do a show about this. Now, we are going to talk about happy things in Housewives and Salt Lake. But look at Mary's had a great season, you guys. Between this scene with Robert Jr. and her scene with Angie, it's so real. I mean, tell Mary she has to show up once and she hears it. So Kathryn's like, can I come back on and can we do a mini episode about Mary? Well, my mini episodes with Kathryn are never mini. So sit back, relax. And let's talk some Salt Lake today, guys. Enjoy. Hey, everyone. This is David. Welcome back behind the velvet rope. Let's just get right into it today because we are joined back unexpectedly by the one and only Kathryn Edwards.
We had to come back to talk about this subject. It's very important to me.
I'm glad. Because we talked about this in our lengthy chat, which will probably be multiple parts, and you texted me and said, oh my God, I wish we talked about this more. And you're talking about the scene between Mary and Robert Jr. and you hadn't watched it. And yeah, this is really important to you. And I'm like, Kathryn, again, people would like you to be here every day, literally 7 days a week. So I'm like, I think it is an important topic. I think we should just do this you're in Italy now. So thank you for checking in from Italy.
Happy to be here. It's 2:00 in the afternoon for me and bright-eyed, bushy-tailed morning for you.
8 a.m., which, believe it or not, here I am telling you I could do this at 5 a.m. and I actually had today a late start, which I don't know why. I had 2 drinks last night, which is nothing, and then I went to bed and I just slept in a little bit this morning. I slept till 5:30 instead of 4:30, so there you go.
I would die.
And I skipped the gym. I'm like, I'm going to make up for the hour by just working because I'm crazy. But where do you want to begin on this scene? I have so much to say, too. Which happened, a few weeks ago, probably by the time everyone hears this, but it's not any time. Yeah. It's like a really important scene.
Yeah. First, tell me, you just had told me before we started this that she was on Watch What Happens Live. And of course, I didn't see that. So can you tell me what she said? I'm curious.
Yeah, it wasn't much but Andy or someone in the audience or someone called in and said, what's the status? She said, look, it was very quick, but she said that Robert Jr. went to rehab for a month and came out and is doing really well. And she added that his wife, because his wife lives there too, there were scenes with them in the bed together. His wife went into rehab and is still there.
Okay, good.
So she's still there. He came out in a month, which caused some comments online. People had a lot to say about that. That's all she said.
How old is he again?
I think 21. Yeah, 21.
Very young. Okay. Yeah, this is when I texted you, I said I wanted to talk about it because obviously it hits a very, very soft spot for me. I've lost 3 family members, my father and 2 nephews, to addiction, overdose, suicide, mental illness, whatever box you want to check. Yeah, check that box. And I think it's a really, really serious topic. I personally am very happy that Bravo showed it and is talking about it. Obviously, Mary knew that the cameras were there and her son knew that, whether they were so in the moment and didn't think about it when they were talking, his sobriety is not going to be a secret. I mean, the truth of the matter, everyone's like, oh, well, why would she? Not everyone, but I saw the one article from Jill Zarin's daughter that criticized them sharing this, and I couldn't disagree with that more. Um, I think it's really important that people start looking at addiction and alcoholism as an illness the same way. And I could be wrong in this, but tell me if, or correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't she go through some type of like a bulimic or anorexic something on the show where she shared that?
Yeah,
And
I believe
maybe
so. Yeah,
I don't know why I think that, but and I could be wrong,
I
but
think so.
I think so. And I'm sure that that helps some people watching. And it's not that that Bravo is out there to be a self-help TV show. I get it. It's entertainment. But when something is so rampant in our country and there's so many young adults, as you and I said, I think, I don't know if it was on camera, off camera before, the number one killer of adults, American adults between the ages of 18 to 45 is drugs and alcohol addiction. Number one killer. And I don't know why it's such a shameful thing to discuss. It's an illness like anything else. And I give Mary and her son, Robert Jr., credit for sharing. And I hope that they realize that they can affect and help some people by sharing their story. And it's not something, and when Mary said, I am not judging you, I'm here to help you, but you have to help yourself, that was great. And that's the truth. And imagine if more parents and kids felt safe to share this with their parents. I thought it was a great interaction and really truly reality. This is the truth. And I am happy that Bravo shared it, because I think it's about damn time. Think about how many, one of the Orange, I don't know her name, but one of the Orange County housewives that was in the beginning, her son that was an addict and went to jail. And now, if I'm not mistaken, he overdosed and died. Is that right?
Yeah, Lori
Yeah.
Peterson, she was like there in the beginning, and then she actually shockingly left on her own because she met a man like with, money, and she was just like, oh, this isn't, this, she was right in the beginning, so she left on her own. But yeah, her son, Josh, was in and out of jail. And, like, I think when listen, I am not, way more about this than I do. So
Yeah.
I am an expert on a lot of things. This is not it. I'm more than the first one to admit when I don't know something. I don't know it all. But
Lucky you.
yeah, right. I
Lucky
mean,
you that you don't have to have this in your life and know about it. It's tragic.
I have friends that are alcoholics that I know them now. I didn't know them before recovery. I
Mhm.
do know other people in my life that have been not, sister, mother, nothing like that. But I do know other people that are alcoholics and they were in quote unquote rehab. And now we go out and I mean, I see it. I see it like, let's go out for one drink. And then it's, 12 hours later and they are just, it's like,
But
wow, like
yeah,
it's not really my place to tell you that you need help because you don't want to get help, but you do need help.
yeah,
But I mean, what are you going to, it's not like it's it's like there's so many layers between me and you that I shouldn't
right.
be the one, but I see it and it's like you need help and no stigma, but I see it in certain people in my life now. Sure.
Yeah. And I think because, when you're a lot younger than me, but coming up, we didn't have OxyContin pills that kids were stealing out of their parents' medicine cabinets and getting hooked on. And then when they couldn't get the OxyContin pills out of the medicine cabinet anymore, turned to heroin. And now how many drugs are laced with fentanyl, and kids don't even realize they're taking fentanyl and they OD. It's super serious. It's tragic, and it's something that has to be talked about, because I think a lot of the Bravo viewers dabble in this kind of thing. It's just a younger, well, I don't know, I shouldn't even say that. I don't know what the demographics are, but I don't know. It's just, it, it's not, and I think probably because of my family's history, I am really super sensitive. And whenever I see people like making drug use cool, or, and like, oh, it's such a great time and you got to drop acid. Andy Cohen, saying that on the New Year's Eve show. Excuse my language, but fuck that. That's such bullshit. And to put that out there when you have so many people that watch you and love your lifestyle and want to emulate it, and I think it's so freaking negligent. It just, I swear my blood boils. It pisses me off so much. And young people are affected in different ways. Their brains, their brains aren't done growing and forming, and it's just, it's awful. It's really, really terrible. And I say hats off to Mary. It's a long road to hoe, and there's no such thing. And if people are criticizing the 1 month of rehab and saying, okay, that's not the fix, that's 100% absolutely true. It's every day. That's the one day at a time. Every day you will fight for your sobriety. Every day you are going to try to, make the right choice and not succumb to it. And I mean, I've never done drugs like that, but I know a lot of people that have, and it gets to the point for some people where the addiction is so strong that they'd rather die than fight the addiction. That's how bad it is. And I think that is something that has to be talked about. And I think it has to be something that is de-glamorized. It's not cool or hip or happening to be freaking high. It's not. Sorry.
No, I mean, listen, I agree with all of that. I, again, don't really know it, but I imagine like that right, the addiction takes over everything. So you wake up not wanting to, but you just can't stop. Like, this is what we talked about on air briefly. Like, you said you don't really have that addictive personality. I
Right.
don't either. I mean, I do for work, but that's a whole nother story. But
Right.
if I related it to that and someone said, today, we're recording this on a Thursday. If someone said, when you're done with Kathryn, that's it. That is it. You are not working today. We are going to go shopping. I would just be like, no, like I'm
Wow.
panicked.
Really?
On, on a Thursday today, oh my God, I have so much to do. Yeah. Shh, can you hear that? You probably can't because the new Quip 360 electronic toothbrush is so quiet. Remember those old school electronic toothbrushes which were so loud? How annoying, right? Well, the new Quip 360 toothbrush is so quiet, and I love that it comes in these bold, simple, cool, sleek colors. Hey, I still have to be stylish when I'm brushing my teeth, right? The Quip 360 actually has a replaceable head which rotates and oscillates around your teeth. It actually makes brushing my teeth fun, which I never thought I would say. And I used to never know how long to use my electronic toothbrush. The Quip 360 has a built-in 2-minute timer, so you know exactly how long to clean your teeth, and it shuts off when you're done. Just for listeners of Behind the Velvet Rope, get 20% off site-wide and a free travel case and countertop stand at getquip.com/velvet. Free your mouth today and save 20% site-wide plus a free travel case and countertop stand at getquip.com/velvet. That's getquip.com/velvet. I mean,
Well, I
now,
mean,
now, if I planned it and I said, okay, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, or if it was
right.
planned,
Sure,
but if
sure.
someone just said today, I am a block away, you finished with Kathryn, I'm coming over, we're doing this, I don't care what, I would just be like, there's no way I'm doing this. Like, I can't, I cannot, I have
Well, luckily it's not
I
it's not
know.
a detrimental thing to your health, but and that's it was funny because I was, well, not funny, but I was wanting to look up the dictionary definition of addiction. And I think I said in the last time we talked, to me, addiction is if it's affecting your life in a negative way, if it's affecting your loved ones, your family, your job, and it's changing your life based on whatever it is that you're using or abusing, you're addicted. And if you can't stop it, you're addicted. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, I really say a huge hats off to Mary and her son for sharing this. I really, really believe that. And I think, in the short amount of time that even I was on, the Housewives, and I talked about my father, to this day, I still talk to people about suicide and mental illness and addiction. And it really does help people. And if there was anything that I took away from the whole entire experience for myself, is that I really feel like I maybe help some people by sharing my story. And, you know, I don't know. It really it makes me so sad when I see it. I mean, because even for me, after this many years, like, kills me. It hurts me so much to see people dying at such a young age, and and ruining their lives. And it's I don't, some people say, oh, drugs is a choice, or alcohol, whatever the case may be, you made that choice. Well, I mean, and not to sound cold or like I don't sympathize with other people, but I could say the same thing for people who are morbidly obese. Well, you chose to eat that hamburger, that Twinkie, and now you're diabetic, or you're this or you're that. It's an illness. And until we stop shaming the people who have it, and have, you know, a less judgmental view of people who are addicted, I'm with Mary. I don't agree with setting up places for people to go shoot up and, doing all these things. I don't like that at all. But not talking about it, not acknowledging it. When Mary was first talking in the shows about seeing her son, and I could tell she knew what was going on, but she didn't want to face it. It's a lot to face, because you're opening up a can of worms that you don't want to see what's inside. And I thought, oh, she knows what's going on. And then it was just, I don't know if it was the next episode that they had the talk, but it has to happen. And everyone has to freaking look at it. It's not just about, it's the same thing, honestly, with shopping. How many people ruin their lives? They go into debt. They ruin their credit scores. They can't get a loan for a car or home, anything.
Or
You're ruining
gambling.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought when she said, and I'm jumping around, but she said, like, get it in control, because I won't support it. I'm not going to stand for it, but I won't judge you. I was like, well, that is the right thing to say. I mean, I also thought she realized, like, this is now beyond judgment. Like, this is actually, like, when she said, like, if I lose you, like, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
I won't come back. Right. Which, I mean, again, you and I don't have children. I don't want children. I don't think you do. But I could understand that, like, to lose a child, that is the number one. That has got to be just, I mean, I don't know. Like, I worry, like, my sister has two kids. Like, I have a niece and a nephew. Like, God forbid anything ever happened to them. Like, to me, that's like, I can't imagine. I mean, people go through it every day. But I think when Mary's like, I won't judge you, it's like, I mean, the alternative
Yeah.
is much worse.
What you just said, at one point we did want kids.
You
It didn't
did.
happen. Yeah, we did. And then when we didn't have them, it wasn't, we had zero pity party. We're like, okay, let's just go travel the whole world, live our life. Like, it's not the end of the world. And because I have siblings who have kids, my nephews and niece are really like my kids. And I'm so close with my siblings. Their kids really felt like my kids. And, I'm godparents them. And I lost two of them. And in my sister's boy, he was the first. I was very, very close to. I mean, literally, like, I don't know what it's like to give birth, but I know I felt like I loved him like he was my own. And it's horrible. It's really freaking horrible. And he committed suicide because he couldn't fight the addiction anymore. His life was so miserable, and he tried. And he actually knew, I think they all started in the same group in Dana Point with the lady that we were just talking about, whose kid died in Orange County.
Wow,
He
Josh. Yeah.
Yeah, he went to school. He knew Josh. He went to school with Josh. And there was a group of them. I think there was like 7 or 8 boys that, when they were in high school, started using OxyContin pills. And then they got addicted, and they couldn't get them anymore because there were no more parents leaving them in the medicine chest. And they started doing heroin. And, these were kids that grew up in a very privileged lifestyle, had everything, I don't want to say handed to them, but because I don't know all the other families, but look at Mary's kid. He's got his room, he's got money. There's, you know what I mean? He could go to college, he could do all these things and have such a better life, but he's stuck in this pattern, in this hole right now. And it's a huge thing to climb out of.
Yeah, it's a huge thing to climb out of. And I think people who aren't addicted or have that, they tend to judge and they don't tend to understand. But like if you put yourself in the person's shoes and you think like I can't help it,
Exactly.
that's where it's like that's where it's an illness, as you say. Like you can't help it. You just, and like I think when Mary said like you need to get help. Like I can't do this for you. Like that's like for your own situation that you're talking about. Like it must be so frustrating. Like I could picture it that I mean, it's what Kyle and Kathy are going through with Kim. Like where
Exactly.
you are just watching. I mean, you can't force someone to get help. It won't work. They
No,
just you could
you
have an
can't.
intervention. I understand they go to rehab, you have the intervention because you're hoping that the person gets something out of it when they're there. But if they don't want to get something out of it, they will do the motions and get right out and go back. You have to really want it for yourself.
It is a daily battle. Remember the actor Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Yeah.
Brilliant guy. He was sober for 22 years, started using heroin again, and the drug had changed from what it was before and the amount, because his body had been off of it for so long, and that was it. Did it, OD'd, dead. And, you know, when Mary's son said that he took 10 Oxycontins and he didn't feel anything. And that's the situation. These kids, I don't not kids, a person takes these drugs and little by little your body builds up a tolerance and you're constantly having to push the envelope to get to that high. And it's really like just to stay without all of the withdrawal pains. Like you need more just to be normal again, right? And I think the statistic, I went to my nephew, obviously before he died, one of his I went to the place where his rehab center, and the instructor said that 85% of all heroin addicts, if not more, die. 85%. Oxycontin is heroin in a pill. It's the same damn thing. And so when you look at those odds, like your chances, and I remember hearing that and I was wrecked when I heard that, because I thought that you're basically telling me like the chances are he's going to die. And I didn't believe it because he was sober then. But the daily battle of it is so freaking brutal.
Yeah, like I could imagine, I mean, imagine something you love to do. Like you and I love our martini.
That's true.
I mean, I'm just thinking, I mean, I also love Louis Vuitton bags. I mean, there's a lot of things I love. And if someone said, I mean, really, if someone said you're going out to a nice dinner tonight and you cannot have a martini, now I could not
I,
have one
that wouldn't bother me.
but I want one.
You could want it, but like how hard is it to say no, I'm not having it for you?
Yeah,
And for me, not hard at all. Like I could say I really would like one, but if someone said no, you can't have one, it's out of my mind. Like, okay, no problem. I mean, yeah, but it's not anywhere near that
that's what
for
I
an
mean. I
addict.
mean, like you just
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
turn it off. You just have to, it's like you're doing something bad to yourself, which could end
yeah.
bad, but I mean, you're like, I'll deal with that later. I mean, you're in the
Well,
moment, you have to do it.
and when Mary's son said that the only reason he didn't take his life is because of her.
That to me was like the most like powerful thing because that's like I was going to do it. The only thing that stopped me was you, which I get it.
Yeah,
I mean, like I
it
get,
was brutal.
but then that's when she's like, "Well, thank God, this is." I mean, that's the whole point, right? I mean, when he said
Yeah.
also like life is like an unseasoned chicken, and when I take this or that, it's just a little bit of seasoning. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man.
I mean, to me, depending upon how he started off and she was saying how he was a straight A student, he was, when she was talking about him before, all of this, and she didn't know what happened or how it went, how he got into it. But I think that depression, I know for definitely one of my nephews, it started with depression, and he had it honestly when he was younger. I mean, I saw it in him. I'm not kidding you. When he was 2 years old, I remember telling my sister, like, "Oh my God, we're gonna have our hands full with him. He's, the guy's got the dark side. That I said blood." My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, attempted suicide. My father did, and took his life. It's just we have depression in my family, and it's legitimate, and that's another thing. You gotta just mental illness is an illness like anything else, and because people can't see it and they want to judge it, and someone can look so perfect on the outside, like you don't want for anything, you live in a nice home, you have a car, your parents love you, your spouse loves you, what are you bitching about? Like, what's your issue? Well, mental illness is an illness. It's not about that you have everything and all of a sudden that's supposed to fix something. And I hope I hope that the Bravo shows this. I hope Mary and her son, now that it's out there and it's a topic, um, for as long as it suits them, share what they're going through, and I hope that it doesn't get breezed over, because it doesn't. Him going to rehab for a month isn't going to fix anything. It helps, but the real hard work is going to be, it's easy to stay sober when you're in a rehab facility. There's nothing there for you. No drugs to get, no alcohol to get. When you're out in your own home and you have the day-to-day life that maybe would put you in a tailspin, and you'd rather take a Xanax and go to sleep to not deal with it, or how you feel when you season the chicken, that's the hard part. And and this goes back to you know the Taylor Armstrong with her husband committing suicide and all that craziness. There's so much of it. If you look at all of like the alcoholism, and really truly, and you told me last week how Leah from New York is suing, or I don't know if it's done or whatever, but was suing
No.
because she said they were plying her with and telling her she's more fun with alcohol or to do a line or whatever. I mean, honestly, it makes my blood boil. Like, fucking A, like how ignorant and selfish, and to want to make money, to get ratings because someone becomes a shit show when they're, on alcohol or drugs, and you'd rather make money off of it because it's going to get ratings and views. I think that's such bad energy and karma. Like, and I hope it bites everyone in the ass.
Look, I think I mean, I don't know how the status of her case, but it's in court. It's not like all these other cases that, you hear of this and then it goes away. Like she was walking into the courthouse, she's in a protected class. And I mean, there's a lot of things that, again, like, I don't know if there's a smoking gun where there's like an email or a
Right.
text,
Yeah,
but
it's hard for
her
something like that.
lawyer
I don't know.
thinks that I mean, they're pretty certain that it's like, yeah, I mean, if you told someone in any other job, go and have a drink today so you can do better today, or like go and do a line, like you said.
But
I,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a hard thing to prove. And of course, you have
yeah,
your own personal responsibility, and that could happen anywhere. You know what I mean? That she could have a regular job and somebody could say something, and where do you draw the line? I don't know how I feel about that. I really didn't think it
right.
through.
I'm
But
not sure she has such a strong like I need more. It's like I go back and forth. There are weeks I'm like,
yeah,
oh, and then there are other weeks where I'm like, I don't think this is such a strong case. It goes back
no.
and forth.
Yeah, I don't know it. I mean, I have no idea, but and there's personal responsibility, in that regard. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. It's really, really tough. I think it's wonderful that they're finally addressing it, because it has been an elephant in the room for the Bravo, Housewives, and I'm probably even other shows. I don't really watch that many other things, but I would believe that all of the other stuff, like all of the below deck and in, yeah, I would think that there's all that stuff that where you can see it. I would believe so.
I mean, Sutton's father too. Sutton's talked about, I mean, briefly,
Yes.
but he took his own life. And
Yeah.
there was this guy, Matt Byers. It just happened like recently, the end of this of 2020, the end of 2024. He was like a publicist. He was on Real Housewives of Potomac, but he worked with certain, housewives. And I mean, this is why I always say to people, it's kind of like what you were saying, like, you look at Instagram and you're like, oh, this one's so happy, that one's so happy. It's like you said, it's like a mental illness. Like that's a whole nother thing. Like stop looking at Instagram and thinking that you're lesser than, because here are examples of people that are not happy. So, you're in a smaller house, you don't have as much money, but you have love or family. Like you're doing well. Like stop looking
Yeah.
at, this is the problem with
Yeah.
social media. But this Matt Byers took his own life. I mean, I would imagine, I mean, I've actually spoken to him before in DMs, throughout the years I've been doing this. I mean, I think he probably was like in his 30s, maybe early 40s, but like, young. And a lot of Bravo. I didn't realize he knew so many housewives and kind of touched them and worked with them. But a lot of people, he died by blunt force of objects with his suicide. No one knows what that means. People, I mean, that's what the thing said. It said like multiple blunt force objects in a suicide. Now, that's all people are like, I don't understand that. Everyone's been asking me, and I'm like, I mean, I have a vision of what that means, but I don't know.
Like he hit himself in the head with a hammer or something?
I mean, when that's where my mind goes,
Yeah.
or that's really where I mean, I don't know what else that
Wow.
means. I don't know what that means, but that's really, so I think when that came out, people were really freaked out about what that means. But that is what it said. It said multiple blunt force injuries. So
And
yeah,
are they sure that this was like not a homicide? This was a suicide?
it's all a million articles. It's been ruled a suicide.
That's
Yep.
weird. I've never heard of that. Like I would, I mean, not to say, but I always think like if I ever did something like that, I would probably take pills. I wouldn't hit myself in the head with a hammer. That would hurt.
That would hurt. There's a lot of other things, like the whole Liam Payne from One Direction that's being investigated now. But I mean, he fell off a balcony that wasn't even that high. And I mean, I don't know if I mean, they're trying to figure that's a whole different situation. But I agree. So that has freaked people out because he seems so happy. And then to read like I honestly don't know how else to interpret that. It seems like took something and hit yourself. And yeah, that would really fucking
Crazy.
hurt.
Was
Yeah.
he an addict? Was he someone that was using drugs or did they do a toxicology on him?
I don't think they did a toxicology. I don't think it ever got there.
Huh.
But
Huh.
just someone that was seemingly happy on the outside for people that maybe didn't really know him, this is the whole problem with social media and online
Yeah.
culture. It's
Yeah.
just like those couples that are both really hot and
Yeah.
every picture like we're so in love and we did this. I'm like,
Right.
these two people hate each other.
Yeah.
Like I really don't post a lot about my life. Like I've
Yeah.
started opening up because people say, you have a podcast and you're here every day and you should tell us
Yeah.
something about yourself. I mean,
Right.
granted, other people think all I do is talk about myself, and it's like it's actually the exact opposite. But so I really don't post. I'm not one to post like, look at me on like, people post on the private jet and I'm like, trust
Yeah.
me, this person has a lot of other things going on in life that you ain't seeing. And it's like, stop comparing yourself, right? Like I have a real problem with social media
Yeah.
that
I hear you.
if I didn't do this for work, I don't know. I don't know if I would ever really post anything.
I used to share more. Um, and now I just kind of, because my life is so different. I don't, I mean, and yeah, I don't like my personal life. I don't have a lot to say about that anymore. If something's really important or I love something so much, then I'll like share it. Like if I find a great
Yeah.
product or, hair conditioner, okay, fine. But just regular, no, I don't know. It's just, and it's not because of any one reason. I just don't think it's probably so exciting to anybody to see it. But I just, I would really hope that people, especially with if they know people that are going through addiction or depression or alcohol, whatever that may be, um, find your empathy. And the last time we talked about how Tamara was so freaking brutal on Shannon and calling her a drunk and all, and she was so rough. And she's like, that's the way, I was trying to get her sober. And holy cow, I mean, I hate to think what it would be like if there was something worse. Like, what would she say to someone who really, my God, that doesn't help anyone. That would make someone pick up a drink when someone, shouts at you and talks to you like that. Yeah.
I
I just,
agree. And yet, I mean, Shannon, like to me, it's like we kind of talked about this last time too, or like to me, it's like when someone's like, well, why isn't this one in your mind you? They're only talking about people in the public eye because everyone else,
mm,
but it's kind of like Shannon's gonna probably, it ended the OC where it was like hope, a hug, and you know how it works in Housewives. Like Shannon is probably gonna just forgive Tamara, and it's like,
yeah.
how? Like, I understand,
Mm,
like, I don't hold grudges, but it's like this person isn't like they're not in your corner. Like, if you forgive them and now you're friends, why? Like, who wants a friend like Tamara Judge? Really? In this situation, it's like, when you're 90 years old and you're hopefully 90 and you're laying on your deathbed, you think this person's going to be there? So what's the point? I don't know. I think in like big picture terms in life,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why would you take this woman back? She said the most horrendous things to you. Like, don't you feel you deserve as a human better than that?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, it's just
Yeah.
so
That's not
simple
a
to me.
friend.
It's so simple. Right.
Yeah. You see someone crying and, and trying to put it back together and imagine, what she's going through. And yeah, they bring, what was the,
Vicky?
no, 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 no.
No.
Alexa,
Alexis.
Alexis. They bring her back on and she just has to keep sucking it up and like being bigger than it. Yeah. And then your friends berating you in front of her. No, it ain't happening. Nah.
Like, what's right? Like, what's the point? And the thing is, you know how like they say, like if someone is drunk or in a fight, like those things that you say when you're in a fight, I mean, you said them. I didn't make you say these things. It seems like there's a lot of things here which you said to me. It seems like you probably mean them. Like you didn't
Yeah.
just, these are things that
Yeah.
came out of your mouth. I don't know
Yeah.
how you go back. It's more like I don't, I'm okay with you saying these things. I just don't know why I should now have you in my life. Like, I don't get that. Like, I don't,
No, nor
like to
I.
me, once there are things said to me, I'm not mad. I'm not
Right.
angry, but you
Yeah.
said these things. So you can't be in my corner. Really.
Yes.
So I don't understand why we're actually speaking. I wish you amazing life. I just don't know why I'm actually speaking to you with these words. This is like you think these
Yeah.
things about me, they didn't go away. You said them all nine
Yeah.
months ago. So what has changed, right? I don't think you come
It's
back from that. You're just like, good
no.
for you for saying these things. You think these things about me. It's okay. I'm not
Yeah.
mad. Just have an
And
amazing life. I hope you have a great life, right?
and now I see you. Yeah. It's like that Maya Angelou saying where it says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
I always say
100%.
that.
Yeah. I see you. And and even when you give someone multiple chances, when you yourself know who someone is, break the wrist and walk away. That's the key. It's tough. And you and I have said before that this social media life and everyone comparing their lives to everyone else and trying to measure up and it really, I was reading something where it was talking about the amount of kids or like high school kids that are on antidepressants and, the Adderall and the ADHD drugs and the this and the that, and how they're just being prescribed all these things. Well, what's changed? I mean, granted, I'm a lot older now and it was a whole different, era of coming up as a kid, but we didn't have Adderall available. There wasn't drugs if you couldn't pay attention in school, or, I don't remember kids ever being medicated for depression, you know, when I was growing up. I just don't, I don't know. And if they were, no one knew it. And I don't know what they were prescribing to them back then. What was it? Valium is like the only thing they had to calm people down. And now all of a sudden you look at how many, and I do think that pattern is kind of changing. I think there's a lot more parents that don't want to see their kids go on drugs and are like, hell no, you're not giving my kids anything. Back, where it was like they call them helicopter parents, when they just like want to have their own life. So give the kid whatever they need to, not be a problem for me. Yeah.
I say that all the
changing.
time. Like when I was young, I mean, if I was like, I don't want to go to, my parents were like, get the hell out of that bed.
Right?
Get your ass to the bus stop and go to school right now. I don't want to hear it. You're not in a mood today. Get your ass in school and bring home a good grade. I mean,
yeah. When we were young and we were bored in the wintertime in Wisconsin, and it would be so flipping cold outside, you just didn't want to be out there for too long. And we would say, we're so bored. What can we do? And my mom would tell us, go to the senior center and go read to the older people. And honestly, like that's what she would tell us we should go do to like busy ourselves. And I remember we would go and we'd sing to them. If it was Christmas time, we'd go sing Christmas, songs and we'd read to them and we'd just kind of go around. We didn't stay that long, but it was something that we did. It was like, okay, well, that's what she told us to go do. And honestly, it felt really good when we left.
Listen, these were we're both dating ourselves now, but same thing. My parents were like, what? Like, if you were really sick, okay, you stay home for the day.
Sure.
Short of that, they're like, what? Get out of bed. You're late now and get into that school. You're not staying home today.
No.
I have friends that are like
channels.
Yeah, I know. I have friends that are like, they're just like the other day, my friend's like, my son's home today. I was like, why? Like, just make it. And it sounded like he just didn't feel like going to school. But I mean, I'm not going to butt into any, but I'm like, my parents would have been like, get your ass out of bed. I don't want to hear it. And, if we turn around and you're in this house, we have a big problem here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, I better go to school.
Yeah.
I don't know. Our world has gotten away from us.
I know.
Right?
Well, hopefully. I mean, I do feel like the younger, this generation of young adults that are raising kids now, like young kids, I kind of see the things that they don't. I feel like a lot more of the younger parents aren't giving their kids cell phones right away, or, not giving them phones that have all of the social media capabilities on them, which I think is brilliant. Making them play outside the video. I mean, there's so much. And obviously I don't want to, criticize. I'm not judging parents before, because I don't think everyone knew the hold that social media and the internet and all of that was going to have on youth. But yeah, now that we've seen 15 years of it, it's not good. I don't know. Back to Mary's kid. I hope he finds a good group. I hope he finds a good sponsor, whoever, and I hope he does get with someone who he can call when he's in, a place where he needs someone, that he forms a good relationship with a sponsor who can talk him through things at times, because to say that cross myself and knock wood, I hope that he doesn't go back down that road, but to think that he doesn't ever fall off the wagon again is probably not so realistic.
Oh boy. Well, I think I hope he's okay too. And we have a lot more to say. I think this is an important conversation, and we just have a lot more to say and talk about with Kathryn, with Salt Lake and Housewives, and we'll lighten up the mood. But I think this is an important conversation because so many families do go through this and face this. So stay tuned for part 2 of our chat with Kathryn Edwards. Thanks for listening to yet another episode of Behind the Velvet Rope. Because without you listeners, I would just be a crazy person with voices in my head. And if you like what you hear, subscribe on Apple Podcasts under Behind the Velvet Rope. And when you're done subscribing, feel free to leave a 5-star write-up review, because the write-up reviews actually count. We read each and every one of them. We post the best ones, and the reviews really help our shows keep going. And we really appreciate everything you guys say. especially the positive ones. And if you want to find us online, we're at Behind Velvet Rope on Instagram. We are at David Yontef on Instagram. We're Behind the Velvet Rope on Apple Podcasts. Or head on over to Patreon, because you know what? There are just some things we can't talk about here. So for our bonus episodes, go to Patreon and type in Behind the Velvet Rope. And if you still aren't sick of me and you want more David, go to Cameo and book me on Cameo. And you can ask me anything there. I'll answer whatever you want. And I have a bargain basement price of $10. Thank you guys. See you soon.